Hello and welcome to Watchdogwargaming. Today I shall be showcasing the North Koreans People Army figures that have been painted over the last couple of months. The figures are actually from Warlord Games Korea range for use with the bolt action rules. So before we go on to actually the showcase, just give you a bit of information about the North Korean People Army, KPA. The KPA was established in 1948, and it was based on former guerrilla units and Korean Volunteer Corps, or basically Korean communists that were fighting with the Chinese People's Liberation Army against the Japanese in 1945. The North Koreans army was reorganized following Soviet lines. So if you can imagine what the Soviets were like in 1945 with the teeth arms, with their infantry, with their tanks, their artillery, their aircraft, and their navy, that's how the North Koreans were re-established. So come the outbreak of the Korean War, they were well organized, well equipped, and well experienced. The North Korean People's Army's figures are actually sculpted in the summer dress, which was based on what Soviet uniforms were like at the time. The actual uniform was a sort of a light olive color, but with the sun and that was actually lost its color and turned out eventually over time to go sort of like a yellowishy tanny color, which I've painted in these figures. The trousers were quite baggy and had reinforced knees, and the actual shoes were rubber-soled canvas ankle daps, which must have been really uncomfortable for wearing, but especially when the weather changed. But also they had detachable shoulder boards, which denotes what unit or what arm they came from as well. The North Koreans were actually issued with Russian-style helmets as well, but from the pictures and what I've seen and everything else, they weren't worn that much. I will now break the units down into their relative components, and we'll start off with the headquarters. Now, with most headquarters, you start off with an officer, and because this is built along the Soviet lines, you also have a political officer as well, the commissar, and also as well in this one I have a medic. And also the two support weapons. The first one being was it the Model 1910 medium machine gun, which was a First World War medium machine gun based on the Maxim that was used during World War One, World War Two, and certainly post-war as well. And then also as well, we've got the medium mortar, which I'm just trying to remember sort of what the medium mortar, that's again, it was 82 millimeter, model 1941, effective range of about 3,000 yards, and again it was says, like the book says here, said good crews could manage 18 to 20 rounds per minute, but just remember, so if they didn't have transport or mules, that would actually have to be carried by porters. Also, the Chinese army had these as well. Chinese was very good at copying anything that was, whether it was the Soviet allies. Yeah, so that's the headquarters, and not to forgetting, we also have the standard bearer with the North Korean flag as well. Continuing with the mortar theme, we're now looking at the pictures of the KPA heavy mortar. They used the 120mm mortar, which had a range of about 6,000 yards. It's a breech loading Soviet model, and it required basically a towing vehicle to actually move this around. It's quite a heavy piece of artillery. But also as well, what I've also included is on there is two of the light mortars, which are 50 millimeter, and these were more issued to platoon level, so they easily man portable, either high explosive or small round smoke rounds, and they were accurate up to maximum range. I think it was about 800 yards on those ones. What I'm going on to next is the Dushka heavy machine gun. Dushka was a 12.7 millimeter belt-fed heavy machine gun, which is a standard KPA heavy machine gun of the Korean War. It is comparable to the US 50 cal Marduce. It was used on a wheel mounting, very similar to the Maxim, and could be quickly placed on a tall tripod for anti-aircraft defense, truck mounted, and multiple versions were also employed in this and other various roles as well. What I'm going to go on to talk about now is another heavy caliber weapon, and that was the PTRD 14.5 millimeter anti-tank rifle. Whilst it fell out of favour with most of units, it kept, or most armies I should say, it was KPA used them and used them quite well. They've received their training from the Soviet advisors. It was effective up to about 500 yards, penetrating 1.5 inches of armor. So that was good against lighter targets such as armored cars, half-tracks, trucks, and entrenched positions. Also as well in the picture as well is the KPA make great use of flamethrowers. The far common flamethrower was the man-packed or a ROX type. The ROKS-2 was designed as a fuel tank looking like an ordinary backpack and a nozzle resembling a rifle, as not to attract unwelcome attention on a battlefield. I think what they gave them away was a slightly big, huge, great big flame that came out of it, but yeah, used as a very effective weapon. Staying with anti-tank guns, what I've got here is the 1937 model 45mm anti-tank gun. For those who are German players, you probably recognize it as the Pax 36 of World War II. It was copied by the Soviet Army and used by the KPA. And it was very lightweight, man portable, and had very little stopping power against the heavy armor of the Allies and the Commonwealth forces. The next mainstay units I have are 3 10-man rifle squads. I have one NCO that is armed with a submachine gun, a PPSH, and then I've got one chappie that's armed with a DP light machine gun, and he's got a loader, and the rest are armed with either SKS rifles or Mosin Nagants. And there's, like I said, that's the three mainstay rifle squads of my unit so far. My next squad I've got is a light machine gun squad, very similar in setup to my previous ones, but with this one it's 10 man, but I've actually got two DP light machine guns and also the loaders from them as well, and then also one NCO who's got a PPSH. This just gives me a bit more firepower with the two LMGs. And my final two units are a 9-man SMG gun squad. Every figure is armed with a PPSH, and they are the sort of the shock troops of my unit. Very good for shock assaults, trench and street fighting. All armed with PPSH, so that's a lot of dice being thrown in one go. So now I'm going to move on to vehicles. So the first things you can see on here is a T34 stroke 85. The kit is actually made by Hobby Boss, and I think it was a 148 scale tank. Great model. Lots of interior detail, engine, gun and compartment driver, but I just wanted it for wargaming, so I didn't do it to, the service it required, but it did for me. But also as well, the T-34-85 was certainly the king of the battlefield right at the onset of 1950, the outbreak of the Korea War. That was until the Americans turned up with their heavier weapons like the Pershing and the EZ-8. Also included on there as well is the BA-64, which was basically it's an armored jeep. Good for reconnaissance. The only downfall on it's got an open turret and it's got a light machine gun, but a very good reconnaissance vehicle. Also, then it's like two Eagle Moss figures again, a 143rd scale, I believe, if I recall rightly. One's the Citroen truck I just used for as a basic trooper transport, pop LNG in the back in it, and then sort of a word I can't pronounce is the Katyushka, which is the Soviet multiple rocket launcher system mounted on the back of a truck, which was used by the Russians during the Great Patriotic War in World War II. And used by the North Korean People's Army for long-range bombardment. So, thank you for joining me and for my showcase for my North Koreans People Army by Warlord Games using their Korea range of figures. Hopefully, this has tweaked your interest in the Korean War, and as I say, it's one of the first conflicts of the West versus communism, and say it was the opening shots of other things that were to start or go later develop in that area of the world. So, like I said, thank you very much for joining me. If you like what I'm doing, don't forget to like and subscribe below. I do try to answer any queries, questions that you also leave below. It's I would like to do a little bit more Watchdog Wargaming, but I'm trying to fit it around other things at the moment, so just bear with me. I'm starting to work on my again continue off with the Korea theme. I've finished off my US Marine Corps, and I'm now working on the 4-1 independent Royal Marines, which were again used out in Korea for raiding, and also were deployed with the US Marine Corps at the Chosin Reservoir. Again, lots of information on that, so certainly on YouTube, and also if you'd like to join the Bolt Action Korea Wargames group, then feel free to do so. That'd be great. Come on down and join us. But thank you, much appreciated. I hope you've all had a good, decent a break, and looking forward to the new year and see what 22 throws at us. But I'm sure we'll all come through smiling in the end. So you take care, and I'll catch up with you soon. Bye now.